Let us start our discussion. Let us go through, first of all, in order to finish our bending, beams are able to bending. Let us go through, first of all, the basics of the strain energy which we are using here. Now, here we should develop the strain energy when an elastic material is subjected to axial force, shear force, bending moment, and torsion. So here, our blocks, our items or prismatic bar under consideration is subjected to axial force here. Subjected to axial force, shear force, bending moment, and torsion. These are the 4 different type of forces which we will go through in order to know the amount of energy stored in our beam when it is subjected to this type of loading. Now, what is the strain energy? By definition is when a particular block, a particular prismatic bar is under certain load within elastic limit, it is elongated or contracted according to the type of load itself. And when the load is relieved, it will go back. It is when it is loaded, it is elongated. Say for a tensile load, it is elongated up to a certain limit, and its elongation is also stopped due to the resisting force generated within the material itself, within the prismatic bar itself. When the external load is removed, then this elongation will go back to the original shape. And in order to go back, this bar is going to do certain amount of work. And this work is the energy stored within the work is done by means of the energy stored within the prismatic bar when it is loaded and it is elongated by a certain amount. The amount of work which is conducted by the bar itself and which is stored inside the bar as a strain energy is given by the half of the load multiplied by the deflection it generated itself. This deflection can be longitudinal, can be torsional, can be bend type, and also family from shear type itself. And process is more or less same. The external force, as it is reached to this final value, probably starting from 0 and gradually rise to this final value. So we are taking the average. So we are dividing them by 2 itself and multiplied by the actual deformation it is supposed to do. And this is the basic definition of strain energy stored in a particular prismatic bar. Now, here we'll have a elastic member here, which is given in this direction. He is subjected to several forces like, say, F3 is a torque, F1 is a pointed force, and is another F2 which is pointed downwards, which is acted downwards. There is a 3 differential coordinate system, X, Y, and Z itself, where My is the torque acting along the torque vector moment vector acting along Y direction. Mx is the moment vector acting around X direction, and Mz is the moment vector acting along Z direction itself. And the force vectors Fx, Fy, and Fz are acting along X, Y, and Z direction respectively. And delta S is the portion of the bar which we are considering, this elemental length of the bar which we are considering for our strain energy itself. Now, what you see in this section, 3 forces Fx, Fy, and Fz we are shown, and 3 moment bending moments Mx, My, and Mz. The forces are axial forces. First of all, this force Fx here, which is shown here, is the axial forces, and Fy, and Fz as the shear forces act on this section itself. Fy, Fz means this portion and this portion is the shear force acting over the concerned members, acting over the cross section itself. Now, Mz is the torque T, and moments My and Mz are here. Are bending moments about X and Y axis, X to V. Now, delta S be an elementary length of the member. When delta S is extremely small, we can know that these forces of moments remains constant. Our delta is because its moment may change in force according in course of time, but as the length is very small, throughout the length, it is remains more or less same. The left-hand section of this elementary member, the force and moment have opposite side. Left-hand section of this member, say this is the cross-section here. Here, the forces are acting as the moments are acting in a different section, and right-hand section is the forces have the are in opposite direction. Now, during deformation, now the axial force Fx alone, the remaining force and bound moments do not work itself. Now, so we are supposed to do the check out the axial forces only. The other forces are not acting here. So dealing the twist by the torque mx, which is no other work is assumed to be done in other the deformation are extremely small by other forces and torque. So we are saying that as our deformation is very strong, only one force very deformation is very small, and the parts along the over which the deformation takes place is the infinitesimally small parts. So only one force is along x-axis, and one moment Tx is working along the x-axis itself, and this Tx is creating the bending moments, and others are not doing any work, any forces or work. Now the work done by each of these forces and the moments can be determined individually and added together to determine the total strain energy solved by delta S when it is undergoes deformation. So we have to find out the work done by the force Fx, by the bending moment Mx, and by the torques Mz and My if it is available. And we should make use of the formulas available in the elementary strength of material, which we already know. That is half multiplied by the force applied multiplied by the deflection, not strain. The total deflection is the constant member subjected to. This is the total work done and which is stored as a strain energy inside the tube, constant tube itself. Now, first of all, let us go through the axial forces. If the delta X is the axial tension due to Fx, then half Fx into the strain energy stored delta U is the half Fx multiplied by del X, multiplied by delta X, where Fx starting from Fx starts from 0 and reaches Fx. So its average is taken here. That's why we are having this half, and this force, average force multiplied with delta X is the strain energy stored here. Now, we know our strain delta X is equal to Fx divided by A multiplied by the Young's modulus itself, which means sigma X by E itself, or sigma X is proportional to delta X, we know. And this is also multiplied by the length movement, that is delta S. So Fx by A into E into delta X is the deflection itself. So it is the only one Fx is already there. So using Hooke's law, this is the formulation we are making, and thus as per so this equation will come Fx squared by 2 into Ae multiplied by sigma S. This is the strain energy stored due to the axial force itself. Let us go to the strain energy due to elastic strain energy due to elastic force, or elastic energy due to shear force. Shear force, say Fy, can be Fy or can be Fz. It distributed along the section itself. So its distribution is a bit complicated, but we assume that the shear force distributed uniformly across the section, which is not strictly correct, and shear distribution will be delta S by delta Y, and the work done Fx will be what is the due to the action of shear forces here. This formation takes, first of all, increases in length to a certain extent, and also makes an angle to a certain extent itself due to the shear force here and here itself. So that will be the shear force Fy. So we are having two displacement, one is delta S and one is delta Y. So it is half from Hooke's law, you know, delta Y, or the angle subtended is equal to Fy divided by A into G. Fy is the shear force, A is the area over which the shear force acting, and G is the radius of gyration itself, or shear modulus. So if we replace this Fy, delta Y by this equation, we'll have half Fx into delta S already all there, Fy divided by Ag, or Fy square by 2 into A into G divided by delta S. This is the strain energy due to shear deformation itself. Now, sometimes we ignore it because it is very small. The error caused in assuming uniform distribution of shear force will be very small. However, it will take into account for different cross section, and that's why in order to take into account we multiplied by a factor K itself. So the strain energy stored by the shear force KFY divided by 2 into A into G into delta S. Now elastic energy due to bending moment. The bottom picture here, what is shown here, the if delta phi is the angle subtended angle of rotation due to the line of action, due to the moment itself, and the work done will be half mz. This is the moment in the moment vector and in the z direction itself, half mz multiplied by the delta s itself. So from the elementary reflection formula, we know mz by ij is E divided by r, where mz is the bending moment around the z-axis itself. Ij is the polar moment, second moment of inertia or moment of inertia in spot. A is the Young's modulus, and r is the radius of gyration itself. Or r is the distance from the center of curvature itself. That is the center of curvature, and r is the distance of this center of gravity itself. So 1 by r will be good to find as m into z. This will be mz, m into z divided by I into E. So where r is the radius of curvature, I said okay. Then we put the value of 1 by r. Delta phi is here, is the delta is divided by r, or s delta phi is equal to delta s. So if you put the value of 1 by r here, put 1 by r, the value of 1 by r here. So this equation will take the form delta s mz, this equation mz ei e into z itself. So delta phi is equal to mz ei z into ay. Substituting this value of delta phi here, we are substituting it here. That is, its equation becomes mz square 2 into ez into delta s equal to delta s. A similar expression can be obtained by the moment mj, my, the elastic energy due to torque. Now, because of the torque T, the elementary member rotates through an angle delta theta according to the formula for a torsional moment. Let us consider if there is any torque here. If some of the torque moments are acting as a torque, which is the mz itself, mx itself. So T by IP, we know from the torsional equation, torque generated by polar moment of inertia divided by G divided by delta S into delta theta, or delta theta T by G into P into delta S. Now IP is the polar moment of inertia and G is radius of gyration, or radius modulus of rigidity itself. The work done due to this twist will be delta phi half TR T into delta theta. Same equation we are asking, thinking that torque is applied from 0 to T. So its average is equal to half T multiplied by it is the make the torque equal to delta theta, and it created an angle equal to delta theta. So by multiplication, we'll get the strain energy itself. So that is del U. Now, if we put the value of delta theta here, this torsional equation will be T square by 2 into G into IP into delta S. So the equations for all these 4 equations we have generated so far. All these 4 equations we have generated so far. The elastic energy therefore due to axial force, the first equation Fx is the axial force of the next direction, 2 into A into ds. Due to shear force, we have to apply use a factor Ky and force along the y direction is creating a shear force along on the material itself, and multiplied by 2 into Ag, then there is another shear force, another force F3 in third direction can have also apply. This can be equal to U3 itself. And bending moment, there are two bending moments. One is the torque along the torque vector on y-axis and torque vector on z-axis. So that is equal to 0 to S. All are 0 to S is m into my square by 2 into E into UI multiplied by ds. So integration is done from 0 to S, means from 0 to the maximum length of the beam itself. Now, this is the bending moment from torque. And what is the torque? Due to torque is U6, is integral 0 to S is equal to multiplied by T square by 2 into GAP into ds itself. So there are 6 different type of torsional equation. One is due to the presence of X. One is due to the presence of X itself. Due to presence of the linear force X. Next, linear force Y, which is acting as a shear force. Linear force Z is acting as a acting as a shear force along Z direction. Bending moment My, bending moment Nz acting on the acting as a torque vector along on the y-axis as well as z-axis itself, and torque itself. If there is any torque, the torque square will be 2 into Gy. Now this 4-6 formula we will use according to our own mean itself. Let us go through our chapter under consideration. Now, let us consider the deflection of a thick card beam, which was our subject under our consideration. We have already discussed, just now we have discussed the problems of thin rims and thick curved members. Thin curved members using the energy methods, means how much energy is being stored there, and due to the action of various type of forces of various nature, we have gone through. Now we have to use this knowledge here. We have discussed a few problems. These thick rings energy method will be used here to calculate our parameter itself. Now here is the parameter. It's like a U-shaped item, and here what you have is a straight type. Here this is a straight step, straight side, and this is the bent side itself. Now, in the straight part of the race ring across any section, there is a tangential force P. Here we are taking a section here. It is a tangential force we are taking, which is acting upwards in the right side and acting downwards in the left side. So as a free body diagram, it is just cancelling each other if it is assembled, and one torque is acting anti-clockwise and there is acting clockwise, and they will also neutralize each other when if the portion is joined. If we consider the left portion of this section, right portion of this section, we have external force P and external bending moment m0. P is acting downwards and external bending moment is acting in anti-clockwise direction. And our bending moment there is M is acting clockwise direction and shear force is acting opposite to P, that is upward direction itself. Now, the tangential force P which is generated here will be equal to the external tangential force P itself, but in opposite direction, and the moment will generated will be P into X. Means if the distance is X itself, then P into X will be the moment acting in the clockwise direction, and it is the external bending moment m0 is acting anti-clockwise direction. That is this kept as minus and this is kept as positive. In the curved part of the beam means this portion here, which is shown here, there will be a tangential force. What will happen here if you take a section somewhere, say here, then this is the section. This section is defined by an angle theta, which it is making with the vertical or y-axis itself, and shear force in order to make the equilibrium is acting in direction in this particular direction. And if we go through the drawing of the other side of this portion of the beam, as per shear force, this shear force will acting in bottom downward direction. One bending moment acting is clockwise, and it is in the corresponding bending moment in its invisible side. I mean, invisible free body will act as a clockwise direction here, and this force is also carrying this external force P. This portion of the front is also carrying the external force P and external bending moment m0 here. Now, then what will be there will be the tangential force, and we have to find out what will be the value of the tangential force. Tangential force will be given by there is external force P is acting. If P is taken as P is acting here like this, so from this right angle triangle where P is obtuse, this particular hypotenuse, P is acting as the hypotenuse, then V will be is equal to P cos theta, which is the cos of the external force, cosine of the external force, which is equal and opposite to that of VA. And there is a normal force is acting over it in order to balance this symmetry of this beam. That normal force will be acting on the vertical is acting along the vertical component of P, and that is equal to P minus sine theta. And M, the force weight acting over it, is given by M0, the original bending moment multiplied by the distance of this particular section, which is equal to D. D is the distance from here to here, and rho 0 is the radius of curvature of our centroidal axis. So rho 0 multiplied this, if we rho 0 here, and we take a right angle, draw a right angle triangle here. Rho 0 is the hypotenuse, and rho 0 sine theta. Theta is the distance from this portion to this central line of centroid of this portion. Centroid of this section is the. So the distance covered by the bending part by the external force P here is equal to D0 plus P rho 0 sine theta multiplied by the P itself, and this should be this should act in anti-clockwise direction, and our bending moment is bending moment M also acting clockwise direction, so it will be acting, and M where our bending moment is acting clockwise, and this bending moment is also acting anti-clockwise. This bending moment is acting anti-clockwise direction, and so this both these sides should be negative here, and this is creating P is acting in clockwise direction. So M is acting in clockwise, P is acting, this portion of this bending moment is clockwise, and M0 anti-clockwise. Thus, if we add them together and equal to 0, this equation will take this from m equal to m0 minus t plus rho 0 sine theta into p, where m0 is the external bending moment acting, rho is the center of radius of curvature of the central axis, and sine theta is the defined as the position of the section under consideration itself, and d is the length of this U-shaped beam starting from right side to the left side itself. Now, in the straight portion of the beam, owing to the shear force, the straight portion of the beam member, owing to the shear force F V, the strain energy stored in a small angle delta S here. Now, there is a shear force here, that is V, and this shear force will act also here if you take a section here, and it will also act as a V. Due to this shear force, due to the effect of the shear force, due to the strain energy stored in a very small length delta S somewhere is alpha into V square into delta S divided by 2 into Ag. The strain energy stored due to the shear force. Alpha is the numerical factor we have taken into consideration. Cross section and A and G are the respective items which you all know. Next, the bending moment M. The bending moment M created on this particular section here. That is, this is the bending moment we are creating here itself. Now, because of the bending moment for a small length delta S, the bending moment will be the strain energy stored with the bending moment U delta UM is m square plus delta S by E into EI. So, due to the action of the shear force, this concerned beam is elongating or contracting by an amount delta S, and we are calculating the shear stress in this, calculating the strain energy here due to shear stress. For the same reason, the strain energy here due to bending moment, as we are seeing that is due to the action of bending moment, it is deformed by an amount delta S, that I and is the moment of inertia of the neutral axis itself, and which for a straight beam passes through the center of the section itself. Now, we told you strain energy due to V is very small compared to that of the M itself. In the cut portion of the beam, owing to shear force, the strain energy in the cut portion of the beam, owing to the shear force, the strain energy is stored in a small sectional element enclosing an angle delta phi. So far, these two we have done during the straight portion of the element for a deformation of delta S. Now, for the cut portion of this member, for a deformation delta phi, angular deformation delta phi, then the shear force V alpha ds into delta S divided by 2 into A into G. And if rho 0 is the radius of curvature of the centroidal fiber, we know this change in length due to this shear force is given by rho 0 into delta phi. Rho 0 is the radius of curvature of the centroidal axis, and delta phi is the deformation created due to the action of shear force itself. Because of the normal force, which is assumed to be acting on the center first, there is another normal force. It is assumed to be acting at the centroid of the cross section itself. Then this equation remains same, m squared delta S by 2 into A into EI. Now, owing to the bending moment, the energy stored is equal to the work done itself. But if sigma delta phi is the change in angle due to the bending, due to the effect of bending itself, then the bending moment induced due to the change in angle here, other than the change in the angle delta phi, which will be given as half m into delta sigma delta phi itself. And from earlier equation, we know the sigma delta phi is given by this relation delta phi, by this relation delta phi into delta sigma into R0, 1 by R0 minus 1 by R, where R is the radius of curvature of the concerned strip, and R0 is the radius of curvature of the neutral axis itself. Now, if we put the value of delta value of R0 into 1 by R0 here from equation 34. Just 1 second. Which is given as E is equal to E R0 multiplied by 1 by R minus 1 by R0 equal to A into E to E is equal to M star. So 1 by R0, this one full is equal to R is equal to R0 into 1 by R minus 1 by R0 is defined as M divided by E A into E itself, where M is the bending moment acting over the section, E is the Young's modulus, A is the cross-sectional area, and E is the distance of the neutral axis to the central axis itself. And if we use this formula here for R0 into delta phi, then the equation will take this particular form, delta phi M A E into E. That is the deflection of the beam. So what we will see, delta UM here, M square delta phi divided by 2AE. Here, if we put delta phi is equal to delta PS into rho 0, so the relation will become M square delta S, and yes, if we replace phi by delta S by rho 0, then M square delta S equation will take this particular form, M square rho 0 into A, E and E itself, which we are replacing here. So this is the another formation of the strain energy, which is being taken into account with the idea that after due to the bending moment, it is already deformed. That other than delta S, the structure is deformed. So another level of bending, another strain energy stored here. If M is applied first and then M going to the relation of the above, the centroid C moves to a distance epsilon 0 delta S. Centroid C is the innermost part. This is the centroid C itself. This is the outermost side, and it will just move. Centroid C moves by distance epsilon 0 into delta S. Epsilon 0 means that's longitudinal strain multiplied by the movement, multiplied by the movement S C delta S itself. Where epsilon 0 is strain, which is the longitudinal strain multiplied by the distance, which means the actual deformation that takes place at C. And the force does the additional work required to, that is N into epsilon, then the force into deformation is done by it. Deformation done by this force is epsilon 0 delta S. And equation we know, sigma x, F sigma x divided by E, and where sigma x is already we have from 6.35 as sigma x is given by minus M by AE to the power multiplied by Y by R0 minus Y itself. In the above equation, if M is positive, then according to the convention followed, Y0 is the distance of the centroidal factor from the neutral axis and is equal to minus Y. So if we put minus E here in case of Y0, then this equation will take the form rho plus rho 0 plus E, and that is equal to R0 plus E, that is equal to rho 0. So epsilon will become M divided by A rho 0 E. Thus the work done by here M and delta S divided by A rho 0 E. Same result will be obtained if M is applied first, then N. So this is according to the principal superposition is valid for small deformation. So this is string here for this is string here. What we string for an elemental section AB, and say C and D, etc. And B has radius of distance of B from the central of curvature is equal to R1. That of A from the center of curvature is equal to R2 itself. And in this section, elemental section is getting a eccentric force N, having normal force N and a bending moment M. The normal force acting and the section produces strain epsilon N. Hence, the length of the fibers are different. Force AB will not sit parallel to himself. It will, the extension of fiber B will be epsilon N R1 by 0. So if it is epsilon N, then deformation of the lower at the portion B will be R1, the radius of B multiplied by the distance phi itself. So this portion will elongate by the amount epsilon into multiplied by, if we multiply the epsilon N, this will get the deformation of the angle B due to the action, this to force action of this force. Therefore, what will be the delta theta or the change in the angle theta? Epsilon N by phi r into R2 minus R1. R2 is real length. R2 minus R1 is this length. R2 minus R1 is this length from here to here itself. Now that is multiplied by delta phi into epsilon N itself, and which is divided by the original length R2 minus R1 means this deformation itself. That is, this is the deformation which takes place divided by the original deformation. Original length was there. So after simplification, you will get epsilon N into delta phi itself. Now going to this rotation of A dash B dash, the moment M also that was equal to M into epsilon N. M is multiplied by the movement it created, that is epsilon N strain multiplied by delta phi itself. Since epsilon N is the normal force, since epsilon N is the normal force acting at divided by A into E, means epsilon by A is the stress itself, stress by strain, stress by E is equal to strain. Then if we put the value of epsilon here, then delta UN will be M into N divided by A into E into sigma phi. Or if we again put the value of sigma phi in a position to put the value of sigma phi itself, it will be delta S dot A into E into M rho 0. For straight beam, the work done by N when M is applied is 0. The work done by N when M is applied is 0, since the rotation section rotates about the neutral axis only and it passes through the centroid. And this is also confirmed in the above expression where rho 0 is the infinity, then so that is the work done is equal to 0 itself for a single beam, straight beam, and therefore U beam Mn here, if rho 0 is the infinity, or this rho 0 is a and bar is a flat surface, this is equal to delta UMN 0. Now we are contracting all these energies together. So the total energy is equal to U. We have to contract from 0 to S. S means for the total length. Delta UV the shear energy due to shear force, energy due to normal force, energy due to the bending moment, and energy due to the moment action of bending moment when it is moved, when the external force N is already applied, and we put the respective values to get the total value of the shear energy of the beam stored here itself. For the straight part of the beam, the last portion is 0 because there is no bending moment is there, and the third expression which becomes indeterminate since E is equal to 0 and epsilon 0 rho is replaced by M square by 2 into A into E, because here for a straight beam, a single part of the beam, the third portion rho 0 does not exist, is equal to infinity, E become equal to 0. So it's replaced by the form M square by 2 into E into I. With the strain energy calculated above and using the Castigliano's theorem, we can solve for unknown other than the deflection of the independent reaction. Let us go through an example. So the time, so far you still have some time. The ring of is a set, a ring. Where we are considering a ring here. Ring is with a rectangular section are subject to diametral compression itself. And what is shown here in the figure is this is the total thick ring which is subject to the diametral compression, means the compressive load applied at this end and then this end, which is compressing the total ring itself. Now determine the bending moment and shear stress at some point E, say section A, which we are supposed to do, which is defined by the angle theta, and R1, R2 is the inner, R1 is the inner radius, and R2 is the outer radius of the ring itself. So you have to find out the bending moment and stress slope, bending moment and stress at the point A itself. So our load applied is the compressive in nature. Both are this side P and this from this side is another P. So we have the dimensional inner or outer part of the ring itself, and definition of the point A is given by the angle theta itself. And now if we take a free body diagram of the top portion of the beam, what will happen? We'll get P is divided by P by 2 upwards and P by 2 upwards here, and a bending moment also given given by M0 anti-clockwise and M0 clockwise itself. And M0, which is created, is unknown to us. This value that we are supposed to determine from the condition that the change in the slope of the beam is change in the slope of this section is 0. We shall use Castiglione's theorem to determine the moment itself. Across any section, the moment is across any section 5. Say, consider this. This square portion of the beam. Quadrant, yes. We are considering a quadrant of the circle for the analysis itself. This is shown in figure C. This is the quadrant of the angle. M0 is known as unknown moment, internal moment, unknown internal moment. Its value can be determined by the condition that the change in the slope of this section is 0. So the Castiglione's theorem is determined to apply is applied to determine the theorem itself. Now across any section 5 here, which is given by defined by the derivation here, for any section here from which is defined by the phi over this quadrant. So the moment will be generated across this section will be given by the M0, which is already there in the section itself, minus P by 2, which is P by 2 is here, or it is acting through this point at this distance of this point. So what is the distance of this point? That is rho 0, means this hypotenuse is equal to rho 0 is the radius of curvature from the radius of curvature of the centroidal axis itself, that is given by P0, as well as its cross-section area. Its horizontal component coordinate is equal to rho 0 cos theta. So this length is also rho 0 itself. So if we subtract rho 0 minus cos theta, we'll get this distance of the moment, which from this point, this is the point which we are from which we are calculating the moment. So this distance to the P by 2 is given by this distance itself, which is equal to rho 0 full length minus rho 0 cos theta. So this distance is the side of the this distance multiplied by P by 2 is the moment generated in this section itself, which is defined as per the angle cos phi itself. So P by 2 into rho 0 1 minus cos phi. That is, this rho 0 is acting anti-clockwise direction, and where this m0 is acting clockwise direction. So total m will be equal to m0 minus p0 by 2 rho 0 into 1 minus cos phi. Again, there is a normal force acting over this section and a shear force V as in G. Here in this equation, we are having a normal force here and a shear force here V. So normal force will be what the component of P by 2 along, if P by 2 is the hypotenuse, and this is the base of the triangle of this triangle. The normal force M will be given by rho 0 P by 2 multiplied by rho 0 cos phi, and multiplied by rho 0 cos phi, and V, the shear force P by 2 sin phi is there. Normal force is not P by 2. Normal force is wrong, not rho 0. It is P by 2 sin P by 2 cos phi and P by 2 sin phi. The strain energy for the quadrant. So what will be the strain energy? First, for this strain energy, this is for the shear stress which we are producing here. That's P by 2 here, P by 2 sin phi into alpha itself, P by 2 cos phi and rho 0. That is the bending moment, that is due to the cos, due to this normal force itself, plus all are integrated from 0 to pi by 2, means half of that is for the quadrant of the particular ring, and m0 minus this, the moment generated multiplied to the power square divided by 2 into a into e divided by d phi is that. And thirdly, this is the bending moment when this is created when the bending moment is acting on the surface which is already deformed by the original normal force. So this is the mn, m into n divided by 2 into e divided by d phi is the fourth term itself. So if we integrate this position and apply that in boundary condition itself, the first two terms, this one and this one, will becomes alpha rho square p square divided by 2 into ag plus 8 into ae pi by 4 rho 0 itself, and 1 by 2e. If this will come to this position, and this one is come to this position itself. And in the above exercise, m0 is still an unknown quantity. As the change in slope in a section, we have to find where m0 is applied to 0. Change in slope at this section, you have to find where m0 is applied to 0. So if we divide the energy of bending here by m0, if we multiply this equation, then it will take this particular form here. Then m0 is still an unknown quantity, is a unknown quantity. And if we, if we take the derivation of u by m0 and equal to 0, we'll find out what is the value of m0. This is given here by solving this equation itself. Now, if we ignore the initial curvature of the beam, if we ignore the initial curvature of the beam while calculating the strain energy, then the fourth equation will not exist. Then the equation of shear stress, the equation of normal stress, and the equation of bending moment will come into action. This is another form of the strain energy stored. And again, we have to find what is the value from this equation here itself. We have to find what is the value of m0 when this strain energy is equal to 0 itself. So from there, I will find the final value of the m0, but there is no strain energy itself. So if we rewrite this term, and we'll get this particular value here. In the same equation by 6.51, as it is the same as given in earlier equation when f star tends to 0 and rho 0 tends to infinity itself. This moment is same as figure, so that is the of a peak moment. Now, with the value of m0 is known, the bending moment and any section will be obtained as m is equal to m0 p divided by rho, and we know we can put the value of m0 here, and this will reduce to this particular form itself. The normal stress as A can be calculated 6.35 in this equation by using 6.35, that is sigma m by A y by r0 minus 1 by divided plus n by A. This is the stress created, bending stress, plus this is the norm stress created due to normal force. If we add together, if we put the value respectively and add them together itself, this equation will take this particular form of normal stress itself. At a point A, from equation 36, from equation 30 to 39, hy is equal to h by 2 minus hy, and r0 is equal to r2 minus r1 divided by log r2 by r1, and e0 rho 0 r2 by r1, and this portion is log minus rho 0 minus r0. Using this, the stress equation will take this particular form itself. Now, if a circular ring of rectangular section, we have not taken into account the type of section itself. Now we are saying it's a rectangular section. It's subject to diametral compression. So where the forces are same, determining the change in vertical angle itself. Now the total energy of the compact ring is given by the equation itself. From the equation of center B, the total energy of the complex system, we just put it here, and here where m0 we know, we have already calculated m0 is equal to rho by 2, 1 minus 2 by 5, 2 by 2 0 itself. Now delta V is equal to u by rho u. What will be the delta V? Is rho u by differentiation of rho u by rho V. Delta u by delta P means the rate of deformation is the rate of change of energy with the change in the external load P. So using the above equation for u, remember the m is also a function of P itself. So what we do, the remains this equation reduced to a certain extent, and when del u is replaced by delta P, and again we have integrated the portion, and E is small, very small compared to rho 0 itself. So this portion is negligible, and this portion is also negligible itself. So this for these two portion is reduced to here and here itself. And again, it will further reduce if we put the value of rho 0 and put the value of pi, this 2 by pi and pi by 8, and pi by 8 minus 1 by pi. Then this equation will take this form, particular form equal to 0.488 and 0.15. P multiplied P rho square by 2 into 8. If we assume the ring is thin, if we assume the ring is thin and the effect of the strain energy is due to the direct force and shear force are negligible, then the change in the vertical diameter effect of strain energy due to direct force and react force are negligible. So you are cancelling this equation, and react force P is also neglecting. We are cancelling this equation also here. Thus, this equation will use this portion of the equation multiplied by pi by 4 by 2 by pi. This can be seen this where rho is large compared to y, and E is equal to 0, the delta E rho 0 itself. E by U equal to pi according to the Flexner formula. Also check with the example 5.3. So we have finished the bending moment, chapter of bending moment, bending of beams here. From tomorrow, we'll go for the thermal stresses itself.